Hello and welcome back to the 12th Man. Joining me today, hot off the press, we have the legendary, I'd say a legendary kit designer, as this guy who's over here designed the Italy 2006 World Cup that they won the World Cup in. That's mental. And he's also a Villa fan and also someone who I class as a very good friend. Rob Warner, how the devil are you?
I'm all right, thanks, mate. How are you? Thanks for introducing me as a legend. Makes me feel special, but also makes me feel a little bit old. But I guess I've got a badge of living on my face these days. So
I don't even understand it, to be fair. I can't even, like, I can draw one of them fancy S's that you do in school, and that's about as creative as I get, let alone make a World Cup kit.
I can't draw at all, believe it or not.
Just digitally good with graphics.
Yeah. Tell a good story. That's what I'm all about.
Rob, so before we get onto the main talking point in the video, business so far this window, how do you think it's been?
I'm quite happy, to be honest. I think we were going to need a big change at some point. It might as well be now. I think so, as so many people have said, so many summers, that team's taken us as far as it can. But I think realistically this summer, that probably was the case. I mean, qualifying for the Champions League and winning the Europa League, I don't know where else it would have gone from there. So something needed to happen. I think at plenty of points during last season, I felt like I would have gladly taken 100 million for Rodgers. That it came in a little bit over that.
Yeah,
I was quite happy with it. I think clearly an excellent player, but still lacks consistency, not just week to week, but throughout a game. So
he scored today for Chelsea, by the way.
He did, yeah. But I've also seen comments about him losing the ball in dangerous positions and stuff like that. Which
he never lost the ball in a dangerous position, mate.
Mate, say what you want. Say what you want now, mate. We've had the money. So yeah, no, I think the incoming João Gomez looked like an astute signing at the time and has only looked better since coming in and injured, but unfortunate given that he's did he play 130 games for Wolves and never missed a match for injury or something, and it's with us and all of a sudden the curse strikes. But he looks like a good signing. I am massively overprotective of Garnacho. I think when he played for United and when he was playing for Chelsea, he would very much have been a pantomime villain for me when he was on the opposite side of the pitch. But at least for the next 12 months, possibly for the next few years, he's ours. And I think he's clearly got a lot of quality. I mean, he absolutely destroyed us at Villa Park this season. And so, and last season, as much as I've been quite a critic of Matty Cash over the years, last season he was for the most part excellent. And I think that's the only game that stands out where we just didn't get a sniff. So yeah, I'm excited with him. I think we're still short, although that looks to be being addressed. Left back, right back, and then quite short up front now with Tammy going off injured today.
Yep, and Majo injured too. And speaking of a club revamp, Rob, sole purpose for this episode today, news hot off the press from Fabrizio Romano says Juventus have asked again today about Emiliano Martinez situation at Aston Villa. While Aston Villa opened talks for Zion Suzuki following PSG deal off, Martinez, Ederson, Vicario remain among names under consideration at Juventus for goalkeeper position. And then he had a tweet. We'll get onto that in a second. But then another tweet followed that. Aston Villa have already made formal approach with Parma for Zion Suzuki. Aston Villa ready to match PSG deal conditions, 35 million package and long-term deal for the Japanese goalkeeper, as that appears to be him not going to PSG anymore. Now, this is, I'm putting Juventus in the shit club with Arsenal here in terms of preparing a bid, tickling your bumhole, you name it. It's just everything but putting in a bloody bid. Now, it's been a bit of a funny window. Jacob Tanswell has also tweeted, which I'm going to read out what Jacob said. Okay. I think that's important to this story because his scoop's a little bit closer than Fabrizio. So he says, AVFC wanted to keep Emi Martinez and felt they would, even said so publicly. Yet despite the many words, Martinez has wanted to go for 2 years. Villa had sought contingencies throughout summer who they believe wanted to join from early on. In the event Martinez goes, and now is he in talks to do so. They've turned very, very quickly and very excited by Suzuki. Now we'll get on to Suzuki, Rob, and this whole thing appears to be dragging on. I'm glad that I haven't really done an episode. I think when I started the pod, the business with Emi and Juve had fizzled out, so it's never really been mentioned in a pod before. But yeah, it looks like our World Cup winning goalkeeper could finally be on his way out, Rob.
Yeah, and I think, to be honest, now, if it is Juventus, and hopefully they can come up with a reasonable amount of money. I mean, every time I see that they're weighing up another bid or they've made another inquiry, all that pops in my head's that gif of the guy, when he walks up to the counter in a shop and like slams down
here's 50p,
slams down his can of Red Bull, and yeah. So I just can't get that out of my head every time I read about him. But I think if he goes to Juventus and we get a reasonable amount for him, I think that does more for his legacy at the club than if he'd left 12 months ago for Manchester United. I think particularly on the back of now winning a trophy, and it was clear, it was so apparent how much winning that trophy meant to him. None of that was theatrics. He's still a very good goalkeeper, but as a club, we are unfortunately in a position where we're having to look at spreadsheets as well as team sheets, and I think that it's he's clearly on a lot of money, and rightly so, given his ranking in world football. But with the money that we've brought in this season, and I wouldn't be surprised if there's more to come. I wouldn't be surprised to see Konsa go. I wouldn't be overly surprised to see Watkins go, but he'd be the one. It was interesting the other day that Unai only mentioned about Watkins being on the phone to McGinn and wanting to get back, and he didn't mention the other two, which I didn't think anything of at the time, but now I'm starting to get a little bit more suspicious. I wonder if there is the opportunity that they're seeing to maybe get out of these UEFA sanctions early and then be able to really start developing as a club. And if Suzuki does turn out to be the replacement, I think it works on two fronts. Firstly, he's clearly a very capable goalkeeper. I think secondly, the club must think that they can develop him, which is the case with anybody that we sign, really. And then thirdly, you've got the commercial value of him, partly within his recognition within Japan and what that could potentially do for us. And then also as a fairly young goalkeeper, that if he plays well for us, then his value is only going to increase as well, both commercially and as an on-field asset. And I hate having to talk about football through the lens of calculators, but that's the world we are living in at the moment until we become a side that is regularly in the quarterfinals of the Champions League and has players from Brazil, Portugal, Japan, wherever else that helps to sell shirts around the world. So I think in terms of who we could replace Martinez with, there's probably quite a few goalkeepers at a similar level to Suzuki. There was Chevalier last summer we were linked with, who ended up going to PSG and not really doing a lot there. But I think with Suzuki, clearly, there's quite a bit of upside to bringing him in as well. So be sad to see Martinez go. Very fond of him. It felt different last year, the relationship between the fans and him. There wasn't so much the world's number one getting sung even towards the end of the season when he was pulling off some blinding saves. He seems to have developed a little bit of a propensity for parrying the ball back into the centre of the penalty area rather than pushing it away. I don't know where that's come from, but we saw that too many times last season and once or twice in the World Cup. So why not? Why not? If everyone else is going, let's just have a clean slate. It's a bit like when you do a new load on a Football Manager and you take over a load of other teams and just sell players and get a load of cash in and then start building fresh. Your own team. And I'm quite excited to see what Emery can do with that. I don't think he's really had that opportunity. I think what we probably will see that we saw glimpses of, well, not even glimpses of, quite a lot of against PSG is I think we're going to play a different style of football. People are worried about how do we replace Tielemans, and to a lesser extent, how do we replace Rodgers? And I think perhaps we don't. Perhaps it is going to be a different style of play, just like there was at the end of his first partial season in charge.
Yeah. I mean, as you said, mate, 33 years old. estimated 150 grand a week. You know, the figures aren't bang on, but it's in and around, and there's probably some bonuses in there. So, you know, with the players we've lost so far, Rob, I wouldn't be against the possibility of a new goalkeeper, especially that being Zion Suzuki, 23 years old, still got his entire career ahead of him. I did a bit of research into how he's Japanese, actually, and he was born in New Jersey, America, and has a Ghanaian father and a Japanese mother.
Mom's Japanese mom, isn't she? Yeah.
Yeah, and then he moved to Japan from a young age. So quite the story. Half American, half Japanese. I love it. But yeah, a young player with an entire career ahead of him, very young, would obviously come in on a long-term contract and highly regarded for Parma and absolutely highly regarded for Japan as well. And I think Japanese players as well come with a big fan base. You know, you do find players from Japan, people who are from Japan, follow those, you know, the players of the countries of their players, that they follow the clubs that they play for. So if we do end up with him, mate, seeing some Japanese tourists with their phones out taking loads of photos is probably not. Yeah, it's probably something that will happen. But I'm not against the idea, Rob. You know, from when the Tillemans saga happened at the start, I can almost go back as far as Grealish. You know, I almost don't ever fall in love with, you know, a footballer for Aston Villa. I think we all got that heartache from Grealish, but we know the squad age needs to go down. Emi probably got a year or two left at top level. So if he's going to see out the rest of his days in the Serie A, I'm not against the idea, Rob. I'm really not. So I absolutely think if there's a change that needs to happen, why not let it be now? We've made enough changes. What's one more for the Bucks? And, you know, it might ultimately not just be him either. It might be Ezri Konsa. But yeah, I think it looks like it's Suzuki, Rob. It looks like that's who we're going for. But obviously that all depends on Martinez going. Well, I know they were offering us baked beans last time for him, mate. Do you reckon they've offered us a 3-pack this time? Or do you reckon they're actually, are they being serious about it? Do you think they're going to go for Edison?
Baked beans with sausages in it maybe this time. I mean, I know prior to going live, I said to you, do you think there'll be a swap deal for David? Because obviously with Jonathan David, there's been a lot of conversation.
With him every window for the last
summer.
45 years.
Yeah, it's like the Canadian João Felix. I'd have been very happy to have seen him join when he left Lille. He's failed to impress massively in Serie A, which would concern me. But, you know, I think the Emery factor, he does seem to know how to get a tune out of a centre forward. That's been the case everywhere he's managed. So, you know, if it is him, remains to be seen. But I think if Juventus are cash strapped, and from what we heard before, they were offering 5 million quid and whatever, it's kind of pointless. You know, it's not going to impact them to the extent of causing them financial problems. It's not going to benefit us in any way. So I do wonder if, even if it's not Jonathan David, is there a player trade that's likely to happen just as a straight swap? You know, if we feel that we can get Suzuki in on a decent fee, then, you know, I think it would probably be, I'd be probably more surprised if they were to pay us a decent amount of money for him than I would be if there was a swap involved. I think perhaps the one thing that does concern me a little bit with Martinez going, and certainly would be even more so if Konsa goes as well, it's just the experience in the dressing room, and not just experience of being Villa players, but just in general. I think it starts to leave us a little bit light. I mean, I know we've got, I'll probably talk out the other side of my mouth now and say we've got players around there with plenty of experience, like Lindelof, like Tyrone Mings and a few others, but Ross Barkley, you know, but how many of those are going to be in the starting 11? We're potentially looking at a very, very young starting 11, but, you know, that might be countered by, depends who else they've got potentially lined up to come in if Wan-Bissaka does end up joining. You know, he's played at a high level. He played over 200 games for United, I think, or thereabouts, which is mad because I always think of him as not being successful there. But was he there 5 years and worked out about 35, 40 games a season? So he must have been doing something right. So, I think, but Emery will have an eye on that. He'll know what needs to be done and what the actual balance of the squad looks like from an experienced perspective. With Martinez, you've always got that, like going into the final, always just thought, Emi Martinez in goal, and he's a born winner, and that's psychological for the opposition. But now's the chance for those younger kids, because we were getting towards the end of a cycle, not just in terms of maxing out the ability of the players that we'd got, but there was quite a few that had got 2 years left on their contract. They're about to hit 30, whether that is Tielemans, Watkins, Consa, quite a few of them. Martinez already there. Pau Torres got a couple of years left on his contract. Tyrone's another one. I think we were due a bit of a change, and with some of them now does feel like the last chance to sell them and actually get some value.
One thing that's I'm going to go back to Jacob's tweet of, despite the many words, Martinez has wanted to go for 2 years. That doesn't sit great with me, I'll be honest. Like, I understand that's fine if you want to leave. It's absolutely fine. Nobody will hold nothing against you. You've done absolutely loads for us, and we're over. We're so grateful for everything you've done for us. But don't go on an open top bus. I understand you've had a few swigs for 2 days. You probably ain't been to bed. I understand that. But don't come on the mic giving it lemon, going, "Oh yeah, they said I was going to leave, but they're wrong." Like, but all along in your head for the last 2 years, fair enough, he hasn't pushed for it, or, well, he might have pushed for it, but nobody's come in for him. Or, 12 months ago, how much did we want for him? It's probably a lot more than we wanted now. But it just doesn't sit right with me that there's all this talk of, I want to stay at Villa, I want to stay at Villa. Then Jacob's coming out and going, yeah, despite his words, he's been trying to piss off for 2 years.
Yeah. Yeah, it doesn't sit great. I mean, I think I'd want to read more about that and understand a little bit more about the situation, because I think, it certainly felt like the back end of the previous season where he was crying on the pitch after the final match that, perhaps there was a few of... Yeah, but I think there was potentially a few of them had been told, if we don't make Champions League, some big earners are going to have to leave. That was, and I have no information that suggests that's true, but it kind of felt like that of, this could be the last time I play at Villa Park, rather than this is the last time I play at Villa Park. I did read some stories suggesting that Monchi had been touting him around all over the place, and he just kind of got his head around us to, okay, fine, I'm going. And perhaps the time was right. So perhaps he's wanted to leave because he had his own feathers ruffled. I don't know. Yeah. And like I say, I'd want to understand more about. Jacob's going to have far more insight into it than little old me sitting up here in Stockport. I think even if that is the case, that he has wanted to get away and try something different, it certainly hasn't come across in his performances on the pitch, other than occasionally going off injured before we've even started. But I think with that seems to have been something that he's been carrying with him anyway. I don't think that would be any measure of his commitment to decide on. People suggesting on social media he doesn't fancy it tonight. It's like, nah, I don't think he'd leave it to 15 minutes before kickoff. They're clearly managing an injury with him. Remains to be seen. I mean, who knows what the team could look like for the big kickoff next week. If we are replacing players and they're not through the door yet, we could be starting with Marco Bizot in goal, Lindelof and Tyrone Mings at centre half. Who knows?
Well, I guess we'll see how the rest of the window pans out, Rob. But we'll wrap it up there. But yeah, we will see how this unpans over the coming days. We'll see if anything's going to happen with Emi there. But yeah, Rob, I tell you what, we'll get you back on for when there's an update on this. So when we've got some concrete, I don't really like doing episodes on rumours type thing, but it seems that it's a little bit more advanced than that. But yeah, you can jump back on with me when
perfect,
when we've got some more on this and when something's official, mate. Yeah,
excellent. I'll look forward to that, mate.
Awesome, Rob. Thanks for joining me today, legend as always. Yeah, we'll see how this one unfolds over the coming days. Let's see. Is it finally time for Emi Martinez to leave the mighty Aston Villa? And is it time for the rebuild to go as far as changing our goalkeeper? We shall find out in the coming days. So, yeah, from myself and Rob Warner, it's a massive up the Villa from me.
And a massive up the Villa from me as well.
Thanks, Roberto.
Nice
All the best. See you soon. Up the Villa.
See you later.